Okay, so this is our panel discussion of teaching during times of COVID. Yep. Sorry. Yes, so some technical problems here. So first, we are going to just provide a number of brief introductions. So it'll be first looking at why are we actually having this panel. Then we'll look at what we are actually trying to achieve. There'll be brief introductions by the various panel members. Then I'll ask the panel members a number of questions. And then we'll open it up for wider discussion with the audience. Okay, so firstly, why are we having this panel? Well, first, interactive graphics teaching while socially distancing, so distance learning, is not necessarily easily done because interaction is difficult or can actually be impossible in some cases, and the interfaces that we're using are limited or can be limited or be inaccessible to at least some participants. And communication has been mediated through telecommunications technology, which is prone to failure, as we have just witnessed a second ago when Mario's Zoom crashed. So hopefully it won't do that again. The main idea behind this panel is that people here can share their coping mechanisms, which may be organizational, technological, or methodical, and also highlight any new opportunities that this change in teaching has shown up. So new approaches or creative solutions that we have identified. So the panel will be me as the moderator, and then here a little bit about myself. I got a PhD in computer animation from the National Center for Computer Animation in 2008. Then I worked as a senior lecturer in computer games technology at Coventry University for 4 years before returning to the National Center for Computer Animation as first a senior lecturer, and now I'm a principal lecturer in game development, where my focus is introductory computing and also the use of computer graphics for cultural heritage. Yeah. Alexandra?
Thank you, Eike. So my background is on visualization, visual analytics, and visualization guidelines, which I use in education. And I've been dedicated to research and education since early 2009. I did my PhD at the University of Buenos Aires, Argentina. And during that time also, I had the opportunity to do several visits to the TUV in Vienna, beautiful city that hosted Eurographics' 2021 this year. That opened me the doors to the research community and also as a lecturer in Europe. And since then, I've been lecturing in Constance and Germany, now in Zurich. And the diversity of experiences always challenged me and maintained myself intrigued and motivated to improve my methodologies in teaching.
Hello,
That's
everyone.
why I'm here.
I'm Rodrigues. I started my PhD and my research path earlier at the University of Minho, and together with Philip's research at Eindhoven in the area of 3D reconstruction connected to hardware acceleration. And after some time in the industry, I started as an assistant professor at the University of Porto, the Faculty of Engineering, already from that time teaching and researching into computer graphics, human-computer interaction, and game design and development. Also from 2011, I've been connected also to INESTEC, which is a research lab associated with the University of Porto and other research and faculties. And I've been doing research also in natural user interfaces, immersive environments, and visualization, and also 360 videos.
Hello, everyone. My name is Romero, and I completed my PhD in 2009 at Georgia Tech and did my first postdoc there. Most of my work was sensing and visualizing human activity. Then I moved to Sweden and I did a postdoc at Uppsala University in the math department, where I continued to sense and visualize human decision-making in this case. Now I'm an associate professor at KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, where I do computer graphics, visualization, interaction, and in particular, recently we've been doing a lot of VR and AR.
Okay, so now I'll be asking questions to the panel. So can you briefly tell us about your main or the most memorable experiences of conducting educational activities at a distance over the past year?
All right, so I think I start. My main and most memorable experiences during the last year. During this time, I've been lecturing in different courses, adapting to different setups. For example, the data visualization concept courses that has a number about 200 students, and other seminars with online presentation and supervising several students and master thesis, just to mention a few of the activities, educational activities that I did. And there are three main experiences that I want to share with you. First of all, the rush to adapt to the new online teaching methodologies that we experienced, the coordination challenges, and the unexpected benefits, believe it or not, of distance learning. So we have progressively adapted from face-to-face lectures to purely online settings. That means that all of us have to change our teaching methods to pre-record lectures, make all the material available online, rethinking our way of evaluating the students, right? Grading, for example, to evaluate the data visualization course online, we have to switch from closed book exams to an open book exam that took place under a new online evaluation system. So in that case, the students and us act as the guinea pigs in a real life experiment. And that was helpful for all of us to experience on the wild the real scenarios that we have to challenge when as professionals. And in my experience, most of these challenges involve, for example, coordination of activities to keep students motivated to maintain their pace at work in an online setup, using tools such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, that have a lot of benefits, of course, but they lack functionalities that are very important when we have distant learning in a distant learning setup. For example, multi-user remote control of presentations, such as in this one, right? So we are experiencing, this is a live experiment of these online setups where everybody's in a different place. Which brings me to the last challenge, that is that we need to adapt in very short time. All of us, and I missed face-to-face lectures and exchange of ideas with the students, with the whiteboard, but this extreme crisis, as any crisis, I think brought us new opportunities and force us to change our traditional way of thinking education. So I want to rescue that. Just to mention a few benefits, the acquisition of new digital skills, not only for the students have to deal with all of these new technologies for online education, but also for us lecturers, accounting and preparing the students and future professionals to deal with better deal better with the complexity and undesired effects of online education, internet interactions, hardware problems, real life and uncontrollable environments. All of that are very valuable skills, in my humble opinion, that we earned already, and that is changing the way we think education. Thank you.
So on my side, I'd say this was a year of balances, or of search for balances, I'd rather say. We had to try to balance a series of things in our lives and in our work. We had to balance what we would think of the ideal for our teaching profession versus what was possible with the new constraints that we were faced with. And this involved giving students more autonomy due to the physical separation that we had. But also we had to balance this with keeping enough accountability so that we could keep track in terms, for instance, of assessment, as Alexandra was just mentioning. Also, in the particular case of the computer graphics community and HCI community, our reliance on very specific devices and in terms of performant devices was also something that we saw constrained, as students in many cases in their homes wouldn't have access to those devices. So we had to balance between our reliance on such devices versus their actual availability to the students. And also we had an increased overload in terms of teaching and management of all of these situations that we also had to try to find a balance. So we had to look for methods to cope with that, and I'm sure that all of you also had to face that. In our case, we took approaches, we already did that earlier, and we took advantage of that, of project-based learning approaches, but with a smooth onboarding so that the students could gain their autonomy in the beginning so that they could work on their projects more autonomously later on, increase the contact points with the students, so make us more available to them, as we sometimes couldn't guarantee in a specific time that everyone would be available. There were network issues, etc. Also try to add some more checkpoints so that we could check them more thorough or more with finer granularity, but also make them simpler so that it wouldn't have an overload, and also provide them some more feedback options to give us feedback about the process and try to improve it continuously. And so to support that, we explored even more some of the tools that we were using before. We were already using for some time web-based development platforms for assignments on the earlier courses on computer graphics on bachelor's and master's, and we explored that even more. We used also a lot more synchronous and asynchronous communication tools, such as, for instance, Discord, which would allow us to be on class time synchronously with the students, but also would allow them to asynchronously contact us throughout the process. And we explored for those easier checkpoints and their controls, the use of DevOps tools such as GitLab, federated GitLab, and dashboards that we created to help in the process of keeping track of the students' progress throughout the course.
Mario?
Thank you. So let's think about what happened before the pandemic in the courses that I was teaching. Well, we had a lot of people in the same place putting things on their body and their faces. Here you have a heads-up display and also new heads-up display. So we were testing all sorts of toys. And we also had tabletop interaction. For example, here the students are testing a tabletop. And of course, they developed projects, and we had open audience exhibitions where we had small kids, their parents, testing out these projects. So a lot was going on. As you can see in this image, we had my students were presenting to high school students, and you have on the right somebody interacting in virtual reality, and then a large audience gathering in the same place, some photographers in the background. And Here we have the same thing, but this is happening at a gaming convention. So you have people dressed up and doing virtual reality, fully immersive, a lot of people, a lot of stuff on the body. So what was going on? Well, we were sharing worn headsets. We were also hardware in general. It was very hands-on. People were touching things and they were sharing the things that they touched. Just imagine that nowadays. And crowds were large and the interaction was full body. So we even wrote a paper about what we were doing. We wrote a paper called Expo-Based Learning, which was based on project-based learning, making it large expos for open audiences to get formative evaluations on the projects. And typically we had full body interaction. What do we do now? I was petrified when August came around and I had to start this course. So no VR. We decided we're not going to do virtual reality because we don't want people sharing stuff that they put on their face. And there wasn't enough hardware for people to do it at home. So we decided we're not going to do VR. So we're going to do AR and we're going to do it over Zoom. So how do we figure that? Well, here we have a tablet and the student has sent their code to the tablet that I'm testing. Those are my hands. And we have a camera pointing to the tablet so that people, the audience at home, all the students can see what is going on. They can hear my feedback. And on the right, we have a shared screen of the tablet. Now I'm going to share a short video. And the video would load. And I really hope that Zoom doesn't crash again. So here in the video, you can see that I'm going around, I'm keeping feedback, I'm saying what is difficult and what is easy. Here, the objective is to build a structure that has physics, so the structure will fall if I drop on the wrong place. And the objective is to build a ladder that reaches that green ball. So, and now I need to go back to not optimize for video. So now you should be able to see it in full resolution, the screen that I'm sharing. So we also did a live public AR expo at the end. Every year we had done an open house at the end of our presentations, but this year we decided to do an online open house, a digital open house. So how does that work? Well, let's take a look. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. And all of the students are at home except 2. And let's go through it. So here we have a broadcast manager. Today we have again, 2 people managing the broadcast, and I really thank them for their excellent support. So we had a broadcast manager, we had the student presenting, we had the audience and the team. These are both the students from all the teams and the students that were part of the student presenting, that part of the same team of the student presenting. We had an AR tablet, and we had a project server. This happened to be a 2-player game where one person would play on the computer and the second person would play on the tablet. We had a student on Facebook, and then we had a bunch of cameras all over the place. So we have a camera up there on top of the display, a camera on the laptop, a camera there on the desk, a camera on the phone, and of course the camera on the AR device. A lot of stuff going on. Now I'm going to turn on optimizing for video and go to the next screen. Again, I will show a very short video of what this looked like. So I'll narrate it. I took off the sound and it's only going to last for a few seconds. So here you can see the multiple views, and our main goal was to provide the sense of being there so people could choose what to look at. And we had a view that was mobile. People could also text us where they wanted that mobile version, that mobile camera placed. And we had, of course, screen sharing from the desktop version of the game of the project, which happened to be a game. Okay, so now you should be able to see full resolution again. Here's a link to the webpage that describes the event and a link to the video. It's a 4-hour video, so I would jump around if you're interested. Thank you.
Just to mention that we are going to also post the slides so everyone can access the links after this panel. So what can we learn from these experiences? So each of you had a slightly different one. Anyone?
Well, I can start. Looks like we're all shy, but let's do it. So, yeah, we just complement a bit my part of the experience. Apart from the computer graphics courses, I'm also in a game development course in which we have larger teams and multidisciplinary teams. So we had not only people from computer engineering, but also 3D modelers and sound designers. And if it was already difficult to do it in person, sometimes to put them together, now we could connect them, but they couldn't be physically sharing their work. And so yeah, one of the main challenges was that we lost some things, and we had to get them in a different way. But also one of the upsides is that in that process, we also used tools that provided us with more affordances and more possibilities also in terms of sharing and collaborating within especially project-based learning approaches.
Quite interesting, because I just see that you've just with that last sentence answered partially a question that has been asked by the audience, which is, did you find some good aspects of teaching remotely? But yes, so perhaps Mario might want to continue on both. What can you learn from this, and are there good aspects?
Yeah, there are many good aspects that I was not expecting. And there are simple things like knowing everybody's names because they're right underneath their face. So you can make a meeting feel so much more personal, even if you're with 40, 50, 60 students from the get-go. Something else that I found amazing was the ability to give them a task and then automatically separate them into breakout rooms. And if I structure the task correctly, they can go out, perform the task very quickly and return. And then we join the plenary session and present the results of their little research. So I was able to do a fine research task in 10 minutes with 39 groups. That was amazing. That was a larger course, of course. So those tasks where automation and sort of the support that technology gives you, because we're mediated. Our communication right now is mediated, and on the mediation, you can add different pieces of technology. A simple example is people's names, and there are, of course, many other examples that we should continue to explore, so that when we have mediated technology like we do now, we can take all the advantages of it.
Okay. So, do you want to answer that? What you found good, Alexandra?
This is to add something that's maybe it's like a side effect, but it's that we have some provenance of what I mean. When we have the face-to-face interactions, students make notes, we make notes. Now that we are forced to use online applications such as Miro, where you have to brainstorm in apps, where you have to share what you have done and so on. So it's also a way of maintaining a log or data provenance of the history of the course or the coursework of the project, in this case, as Mario and Ruby mentioned, right, when this project-based learning. I think that's a benefit, clear benefit, and transfer skill for students.
Okay. I was just going to add that there's also in this, of course, a bit also of a dark side. One of the things that we found, and we don't actually have a good solution so far for that, is a bit of the fragmentation in terms of technologies. We get that, for instance, from our students, that some teachers use Microsoft Teams, others use Zoom, others use Discord, others use a combination of all of them, and so that and even ourselves, of course, we also, when we have to meet with other people, we also have to have all the different variants to be able to connect and to interact. And yeah, that is something that I feel it as a load that goes into the both teachers and students.
Let's see, Mario has something to add.
Yeah, so the question was what can we, what have we learned? That's the question that's over here. But people have also been asking, what are the benefits? And now Rodrigues talked about, what are some of the drawbacks? The list of drawbacks is huge, and I think we need to structure it in a way where we prioritize so that we can continue to take steps forward that makes sense for teaching interaction online in particular. Because one of the motivations for having this panel is that interaction is hands-on by definition. And we're not supposed to be together. We're not supposed to be touching the same things. So how do we deal with that? How do we still learn what we need to learn about interaction where we take advantage of hardware that is everywhere? We have laptops and phones everywhere, for example. Those are some of the things that we need to brainstorm. But then again, all of these things are brittle. They fail. Like my Zoom just failed. Fortunately, it came back online pretty quickly. But I have another laptop in another room connected online and ready to get started just in case this one failed. So I was ready to run out and get the other one started. But this, my laptop here in this room came back to life just in the nick of time. So preparing yourself for things to fail is just common sense when you're doing mediated communication like we're doing now. If one laptop fails, you have another one. But then, of course, not everybody has the resources to do that. So you prepare your phone, you prepare maybe a tablet, but still, here is a good moment to just think about. I don't want to talk about it, but I want to think about the digital divide and those people that barely have enough hardware to connect once, and they don't have backup systems, for example. So the digital divide, and how do you deal with pandemic in places where even networks are not as stable, for example?
That actually is quite good for closing on this question. And the one next question that I was going to add actually also partially is asked by the audience. So let me grab the first one. It's like here is that first an observation that they found that they struggled to actually they couldn't see how students sometimes struggle, which I actually have also seen as well. So they received 10 times the number of emails with just small questions. And yes, I think a flood of emails is what every one of us is currently experiencing. And are there any ways to meet these demands? So I'm not sure. We can open this up for slightly further discussion in a bit, but just the next question was something that I was going to ask as well. Especially when we look at several potential points of failure, access to suitable hardware or software, or even the stability of the internet connections. How do you manage assessments and make sure students are assessed fairly? And how do you compare this to before? Because so one of the members of the audience says they only see drawbacks but no real advantages. So who wants to answer this first? Alexandra?
Yes, thank you, Eike. So regarding the first question about the emails, we have been using the forums. We have the These Guides forum for sharing questions, doubt, advice about visualization guidelines, and also some internal forums for more technical questions. And there are many other forums. And I think the wikis and the forums are a very nice alternative to email, because you maintain all the discussions are there, are archived. Other students can learn from previous questions. It's much more better than centralizing everything in, or it requires more organization, moderators, but at the end it paid off. That's the first one. And the second, for the grading, it was very difficult. And I think this is also part of this paradigm shift that we need to think about it, because how to do a fair evaluation with the question, right? In the wild, in these uncontrolled environments. So some of the big courses, they just you know, they did it in a stadium because they couldn't do it online. So they decided to rent a stadium and try to make the exam there, but this is not feasible for all of us, right? So
Eike.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes, Eike. I can chip in. Regarding the first question, actually, my student email related to classes has reduced quite a lot, and I was quite happy, and I think that we've been getting a benefit from that. By the way, as we organize things using Discord, so we prepare channels in Discord. We have, let's say, the whole class is 150 students, and they're divided in 7 practical classes, so seven groups of around 20-something students. And so we have a channel for each of these practical classes, and there's a teacher for each of these classes. Well, some of them have more than one class. I teach 2, for instance, in one of the editions. And we have a general discussion channel focused on the projects, the practical projects. And we incentivize the students that during the class time, they pose their questions if in the part that we're not online, and they pose it in the channel for that class. And outside the class, they put it in the general forum. And we assume and tell it to the students that we will not reply right away. We will wait some time to see if some of the colleagues would like to chip in and provide some feedback. And but we pay attention to it, of course, and it's very interesting to see. They quickly start asking questions. I'm having this problem, and then they share the image, and very quickly they have a real-time interaction. And in most of the cases, they solve it by themselves, and then we just add in, that's good, and you can also try this and this alternative. Or in some cases, if we see that after half an hour or 1 hour, there's no answer, we chip in. And all of the teachers are connected there, so it doesn't have to be a specific one. And I haven't received almost any emails on those courses. So that's, yeah, I'll leave it to Mario to complement that.
Oh, no, I was just letting you know that I also want to say something, not that you should finish. Did you want to say anything else?
No, that's it. I could talk about the grading, but maybe we'll continue on this.
Oh, you wanted to talk about the grading, because I was also going to talk about the grading. Why don't you go ahead and finish your statement, and then I'll go with mine.
Yeah, so regarding the grading, we have it more as a challenge comparing the evaluation components that relate, for instance, to exams. So in which in a normal setting, the students would be in a room and filling in the exam with supervision, and that doesn't translate very well to the remote setting. And I haven't seen a good solution yet. I see several proposals, but not a good one. In terms of the projects, I would say it's more or less on par, because also the follow-up that we did in person classes, we do it in the remote classes, and we discuss the code with them via Discord or via other connections. We keep track of their progress in Git repository. So I would say it's the same. If it's the best one, well, I also have some issues sometimes in the in-person follow-up, because we can't have complete control that they're not using some part of the code sometimes that they shouldn't be using. But I would say it goes a bit on par with what we had on in-person model. Now on the exams, not so much.
Absolutely. Eike, should I go?
Yes, I saw that one of the previous presenters from this session also has a question or something, but we'll open it up to general discussions in a bit. So first, Mario.
I'm going to address this. Sumanta, you're welcome to stay and then ask questions, but this is a panel that we prepared between the 4 of us. Does that make sense? So you're welcome to be part of the audience, but let me answer this question, which is there right now. So the question has 2 parts. One is communication, and the other one is evaluation, and both are terribly difficult, and there's no one single solution. If you run a course that includes written examination in front of a proctor, it's terribly difficult. It is terribly difficult to do that online. But if you run a course where it is project-based, and the way that you evaluate the students is through their written reflections, what they have learned, and a course-long demonstration of hitting milestones in learning through the development of their projects, for example, by checking their GitHub, or by what we did is we produced a development journal, for example, where people entered what they had done, what they had planned, what they planned to do, and also reflections about what they have learned and what they didn't expect. And the teaching assistant and I checked those development journals and learning journals throughout the course. And we didn't do any written examinations. We have had online quizzes, but then of course a lot of it is honor code, so we didn't give a lot of credits for the online quiz, and we prepare the online quizzes multiple choice so that they can be auto-graded by Canvas, which is what we're using. So we do not rely on written examination, and we were not relying on written examination before the pandemic. So we were able to make that transition relatively well. We still rely on what they have learned and the projects that they have created. And as I showed during the videos, we were evaluating the projects basically live through Zoom, giving and receiving feedback. The other question, which is communication, I want to use Discord, and I haven't, not for education, and I want to start using it. So I'm going to take Drew's advice here. I've used Slack for communication with my master's students, but I haven't used Slack for communication during a course. For course communication, we have relied 100% on Canvas. So whether or not you use Canvas at your institution or whether you use a different education system, that's where we have offloaded all of the email. And I encourage the students to communicate with us, the teaching team, through Canvas, and to avoid email, because our email inboxes are already very crowded. But Canvas is a way to get things started. And we also encourage the students to ask questions to the discussion boards before they send private messages, so that if the questions are not private, I think the discussion board is a good place to start, because there's the public record of it.
Okay, I think we should just open it up we've got just 1 minute left, so open up for questions from the audience. There was just one question here. How much more time overall do you think teaching from afar took?
Oh. Well,
I was just...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Very briefly, because we have 0 time. We tried to measure it. I think it was about the double of time using for these guides in our case, but forums, yeah, double of time, I'd say, effort from the lecturers.
I would be a bit more optimistic. I would place it between extra 50%, 70%, and now in this already second track, going on a more going less, because some of the things are already more
just got a comment from the quite actually busy discussion in Discord saying that you are very lucky.
yeah, Drew, you're very lucky. I'm gonna with Alex. I think
well, maybe I'm not lucky, maybe I'm optimistic. That's different. That's different.
Time was brutal. And part of it was learning, part of it was adapting, part of it was just simply doing different things.
Exactly. So it's just I've just got, in my case, I just got the feeling, the work isn't that much more, but it just takes so much longer to get it done.
Yeah. So of course, the first, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months were brutal. Yeah, that's true. But as we got it working, then it started to even out. What I felt where we actually ended up spending more time was when we, during the practical classes in which we would discuss with each group individually, that those discussions would take a bit more time. So we would stay sometime either right after the class or schedule with them, with the groups that we weren't able to talk during class, to talk the day after or so. And yeah, there I would say that it would take us about, in some cases, on a 2-hour class, we would spend 2.5 hours or 2:45 in total. Yeah, but of course the beginning was very bad, yes. And of course it depends on the courses as well.
I have the thank you slide up there, sort of hinting that we're out of time.
Yep.
Okay, in that case, just one more comment on this. Actually, in just my experience, yes, as I mentioned, it took longer, but also, I mean, they're quite. I think everyone has had different types of experiences. One positive that we found was students, if they had to present just because they because they were not sure whether their internet would hold up, they would record their presentations beforehand and send them in, and they became much smoother. And actually, for the first time in my life, students are actually sticking to the time limits for presentations. So that has worked well, but other things obviously more difficult. So before we just finish, earlier we posted a survey that we're asking of people about what their experience have been. So if anyone has got the time, so the link is in Discord, both on this channel. I've also posted it on the general channel. So anyone who's got the time to answer this, that would be great, just so we get a better overview also from the education board here. Okay, so we'll finish this panel for now, and I think the discussion might continue on Discord afterwards. So let's see.